Hey you guys, how are you doing? Today we are taking a look at some of my favorite PlayStation 5 hidden gems. And you guys know the drill. Grab yourself some pizza, kick back and make yourself comfortable, and let's get the kick out of gaming. And to smoothly kick off this list, we are going to start with a remake of a PS3 hidden gem. I don't know if this technically counts as a hidden gem, but as a diehard PlayStation 3 fan, I love it when an obscure Japanese PS3 exclusive gets some love. NieR Replicant. This game hits hard. From the story to the gameplay to the colorful cast of characters and the amazing soundtrack, this is a straight 10 out of 10 for me. While NieR Replicant may look like a typical standard action-adventure game from the outside, where you can take on fetch quests and fight your way through various dungeons, its gameplay is quite diverse. It goes from hack and slash to shoot 'em up to Resident Evil-like horror and even top-down dungeon crawling in just a few hours, and it does it flawlessly. And the same is true for the lore and characters. While the story sets itself up like a classic adventure, it then detours into dark and twisted mature themes. It really is one of a kind, and I highly recommend you check it out. I finished my first run and I heard that there are multiple endings and a ton of lore and Easter eggs to uncover for repeated playthroughs. So I can't wait to spend another 20 plus hours in this amazing world. If you want something more straightforward and accessible with excessive violence, then check out Paint This Town Red. Paint This Town Red is a chaotic first-person brawling combat game with no limits on how we beat our low-poly enemies. These goons can be punched, bashed, kicked, stabbed and sliced to pieces using almost anything that isn't nailed down. The gameplay is as simple as it gets. We'll be dropped into a level and tasked with killing everyone in it, and this functions as its biggest flaw as well. There is no story or any mission-based gameplay. Paint the Town Red works best as a quick pick-up and play game. It really nails the main gameplay loop of going wild and just having a bloody good time. And if you're done messing everyone up and need a break from the non-stop action and something more meaningful, then check out Kena Bridge of Spirits. I got this game for my kids, but I ended up playing one of the best interactive movies myself. As a ghost whisperer, we help restless spirits pass on into the afterlife. On our journey to the sacred mountain, we meet some ghost kids in the woods, and this is where the story kicks off. Overall, Kena is a pretty straightforward adventure game. Explore, solve puzzles, and of course beat some goons with a stick. The environmental puzzles challenge us to put all our abilities to good use, and later on, Kena isn't afraid to get tough with its combat. For some demanding boss battles, precise timing is required to succeed. But what really caught my eye were the pretty dope graphics. Some of the pre-rendered cutscenes have movie-like quality, combined with the heartfelt story, which at times made my eyes just a little sweaty. This tragic fairy tale managed to balance combat, platforming and puzzle solving perfectly. Every aspect of this game stitches together into one cohesive masterpiece. So don't let the art style fool you. It may look like a game made for kids, but it was a blast beating goons into the forest ground to help some ghosts into the afterlife. And with that said, if you're craving some supplies for your Metroidvania collection, then give F.I.S.T, Forged in Shadow Torch a try. When I heard that the main protagonist is a bunny that is kicking some serious butt, I was immediately reminded of Overgrowth. But this game deserves a video on its own. F.I.S.T could easily stand on its own paw pads and really packs a punch. It's one of those more surprising releases of this year. In this 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania, we play as a bunny with a giant mechanical arm who is suffering from Resistance War flashbacks. After our friend is forcibly arrested, we end up in a gear up montage and are ready to fight back. Of course, we get involved in a bigger scheme between the mob, the rebellion, and the oppressive force of the evil legion. So it's time to beat the crap out of every andromorphic animal that stands in our way, by upgrading our mechanical arm with all sorts of helpful tools, like a drill that functions as a helicopter blade. If you've played a Metroidvania in recent years, you know what's up. The articulated level design is full of secrets and shortcuts ready for us to explore. And F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is a game with lots of heart and personality. The game's atmosphere is fantastic, exploring the wonderfully designed world is very engaging, and the combat system is great. There is quite a bit of backtracking to do, but this is easily overlooked by the great aesthetics and engaging combat. So this is a resistant move that everyone should sign up for. On the other hand, I would not recommend enlisting for the next field trip on this list. Tormented Souls. I got a lot of comments telling me to try this game out, and now the time has finally come. Praised as a retro AA survival horror game, Tormented Souls is off to an, air quotes, great start. Waking up in a bathtub, naked and with one of our eyes missing, things are looking pretty grimdark for us. From there on, we have to explore a creepy hospital with tons of horrible creatures to find out what the heck is going on. The story and gameplay take some interesting twists and turns along the way, involving other worlds and time travel, which kept Tormented Souls fresh and interesting. Gameplay wise, it's a classic survival horror game you would have found on the OG PlayStation. Right down to the fixed camera angles, limited saves, cryptic puzzles, and optional tank controls. One of the main gameplay features is that you have to stay out of the darkness or you will die instantly. In the first half of the game, you only have a lighter and can't use a weapon while holding it. This makes survival early on pretty tense. The atmosphere here is top notch and the graphics are a good mix of both old school and modern horror. While there are only a few enemy types, they all have a very unique grim style. Good thing is, most weapons in this game pack a punch. And there is a pretty handy dodge move too. My absolute only gripe with Tormented Souls is the voice acting. It's at the same level as the original PlayStation survival horror classics. While it fits the retro horror feel, it also shows the limited budget of the game. And while we're at the topic, some of the puzzles are pretty tough. So if you get stuck, I'd recommend you check a guide while playing. Overall, this game took me around 10 hours to finish, and it was a pretty good time, because I'm always down for a good survival horror experience. And while we're still in the retro flow, let's talk about an amazing side-scrolling action game. Tales of Iron. This was one of the surprise hits of recent memory. We play as a furry and the son of the Rat King, who is trained to inherit the throne. But during a tournament, the arch enemies of the rats show up, the freaking frogs. They slaughter the king and burn down the castle. So we are out for bloody revenge and to rebuild our kingdom mission by mission. If you're into 2D pixel art, this is a very well crafted game with crushing difficulty at times. The combat in Tales of Iron is simplistic in design, yet you have to master those controls pretty fast. Here is an example. You can charge an attack with your two-handed weapon and then immediately follow up with a few slashes from your sword and finally shoot a goon on the other side of the screen. To top things off, there are some bloody good execution moves too, but make sure to block, parry, dodge and roll as well, because the difficulty of the enemies and especially the bosses varies wildly. I never found myself getting bored in boss fights because each of them has multiple different attacks and most have multiple phases. Most of the bosses would take me 2 to 3 attempts at least, so prepare to learn some attack patterns or play this game on easy mode. What sets Tales of Iron apart from other Metroidvanias is the fairy tale-like atmosphere with its hand-drawn characters and backgrounds, which are already neat. But the narration from the voice actor of The Witcher takes it to the next level. The story of the tiny Rat King recapturing his kingdom from wicked toads did hold my attention till the very end. There is a bit of backtracking to do, but the levels and backgrounds keep on changing to reflect what happens in your kingdom, which did keep the level design fresh. Overall, the story has a good length and you probably complete Tales of Iron in like 7 to 8 hours if you rush through it. But these hours were an absolute blast to play. And remember, if you want to order a physical copy of any of those PlayStation 5 games, would you kindly use my PlayAsia affiliate link down below. And with that said, check out the next gem on this list. Werewolf, the Apocalypse, Earthblood. Well, someone made sure that all the keywords are in this title, but we are here to talk about the gameplay, and Werewolf delivered the whole bloody 9 yards. I remember my first time going through it, I felt completely unstoppable. So much prowess and power, I could feel the bloodlust that came from ripping through security goons and leaving a sea of red on the floor. For me, the game freaking delivered. No mercy for evil company employees bent on destroying the environment for profit. And as we learn at the end of the first level, as a werewolf we must learn to control our anger. And this is what the game really kicks off. It has a pretty unique setting and the seamless shift between human form, wolf and werewolf feels amazing. The old school beat 'em up feel of the combat encounters really stole the show for me, proving once again that some things don't go out of style. While ripping and tearing, keep in mind that this is clearly a budget title. It may suffer from the same problems that most of these old school games had too, mainly repetitive gameplay and not a lot of enemy variety. If you can overlook those minor flaws, you will enjoy this primal rage. And after we're done fighting for the planet's well-being, it's time to roll the dice and check out one of the more unique games in recent years, Lost in Random. This one was a surprise for sure, but a welcome one. The devs of Zombie Vikings made this gem and finally managed to bring their humor and unique art style to the third dimension. We drop right into a dark and twisted fantasy world where our fate is determined by the luck of a dice. Rolling from 1 to 6 determines which section you will spend your life in. Our sister Aught rolled a 6, which secured her a top spot it seems, but when she gets taken by the queen and her goons, we decide in the middle of the night to go on an epic adventure and save her. Along the way we'll meet lots of quirky NPCs. Some help us and others are just here for some banter and puns, which will give you a good laugh. When it comes to the gameplay, the developers came up with a deck building system to spice up the hack and slash combat. The deck building elements and dungeon-like combat piece together very nicely, and we have a wide variety and range of cards that lets us come up with unique decks full of weapons, traps and utility cards to help us through the battles. While the game is not terribly difficult, I would recommend you play around with fun decks to mix up the combat at times and challenge yourself a bit. Lost in Random is a fantastic game, a well thought out world to the smallest details. From wordplays to the gameplay mechanics, I was floored after playing this game. This is the gaming experience I so desperately crave, something unique and memorable. The next game on this list just released, so I haven't finished it yet, and I'm always hesitant to recommend games I'm currently playing, but man, this one was a blast. Chorus. This fun arcade shooter has some awesome space combat, which feels tight and enjoyable from the first minute. But let's start at the beginning. As a gifted space wizard, we fight our way through the galaxy, and after blowing up a whole planet with our space magic, we realize that we might not be the good guy, or in this case the good girl of the story. And this is where the first mission kicks off. After our little F-up, we've been hiding in a galaxy far, far away. But guess what? Our past comes to haunt us, so it's time to finally listen to the edgelord voice in our head and blast some space pirates and take on an evil space dictator. Overall, I found the story about heresy and dark space magic quite interesting, and when the frantic space combat gets going, I really got into the zone. The gameplay and spot-on controls are making our suicide missions fun to zip through. Dodging and weaving through asteroid fields feels fluid and tight, and the top-notch graphics surely did their part as well. Graphically, this game looks beautiful. Most of the time, we have an open map where everything happens as in the usual open world RPG. There are many quests scattered around the map and even more random events. And I was always eager to find out more and get right into the battle zone. Chorus has the best space arcade combat I've played in years. The thrill of dynamic encounters and dogfights coupled with a compelling narrative make this one an absolute must-play. And with that said, it's time to check out the final game on this list, and my favorite overlooked and criminally underrated hidden gem, Necromunda Hired Gun. This game caught me off guard with its raw, fast-paced, violent, old-school shooter gameplay. Set in the 41st millennium, we play, surprisingly, as a hired gun who gets sucked into a power struggle. The story is razor thin, but there is nothing quite as satisfying as death metal playing while we are killing goons. Saying that the gameplay was inspired by a certain ripping and tearing angry space marine is an understatement. It has great gunplay combined with freaking gory finishing kills. I mean, you can take down most enemies with ease just going for a straight one-click finishing blow, because in this universe, this attack is pretty much unstoppable. The combination of the fast-paced movement, a grappling hook and a kick-ass soundtrack makes this ride in the Warhammer 40k universe a bloody good time, and one of the surprise hits of the year. And I'm happy to report that even in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the dog is still man's best friend. And he is a big part of the hired gun business too. You can summon your buddy for some combat support and even upgrade our furry friend with some badass cyber augmentations. The only downside was the so bad it's not good voice acting, but overall I had a blast with this game. And that's it, my dudes. These are some of my favorite PlayStation 5 hidden gems. Now, let me know, which PS5 game is your favorite in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, kick the like button, sharing is caring, and subscribe. But most importantly, have a great day and get the kick out of gaming.
Don't you see, child? I am eating some soup. God feeds my spirit, but I have to take care of my body.